Brazil is the 5th largest country in the world and is also home to over 200 million people, making it the 7th most populous nation. But did you know that despite Brazil's massive size, there are some parts of the country that can still accommodate over 100 million people, while other parts are overpopulated? Why is it that eastern Brazil has been filled up with people while western and central Brazil screams of vast land without inhabitants? Join us in this video as we discuss some of the vital reasons why so few Brazilians live in central and west Brazil. The history of Brazil begins with the indigenous people. Before the arrival of Europeans, Brazil was inhabited by diverse indigenous tribes, each with distinct languages and cultures. Some of the most well-known indigenous groups were the Tupi-Guarani, who lived along the coast, and the Tupia, who inhabited the interior. These groups had rich traditions and lifestyles, relying on agriculture, fishing, and hunting. The Portuguese arrived at the land that would become Brazil on April 22, 1500, commanded by Pedro Álvares Cabral, an explorer on his way to India, under the sponsorship of the Kingdom of Portugal and the support of the Catholic Church. From the 16th to the early 19th centuries, Brazil was created and expanded as a colony, kingdom, and an integral part of the Portuguese Empire. Brazil was briefly named Land of the Holy Cross by Portuguese explorers and crusaders, before being named Land of Brazil by the Brazilian Portuguese settlers and merchants dealing with Brazil. Portugal established its first colony in Brazil in 1530. Colonists created sugarcane plantations along the coast and sent diamonds and gold back to Europe. Soon, people from West Africa were brought to Brazil to work as slaves. The discovery of large inland gold reserves brought thousands of people from the coasts and as far away as Europe to the interior of the country. In 1789, Brazilians tried to kick out their Portuguese rulers. The rebellion was soon put down, but it started a movement towards independence. By 1822, Brazil was a sovereign nation. Kings of Portuguese blood ruled until 1888, when military leaders and landowners expelled the king, and Brazil became a federal republic. Ever since they became a federal republic, immigrants from both Europe and Africa have been coming to the country in droves, due to its growing economic and cultural diversity. As of 2022, according to IBGE, Brazil is the 7th most populous country in the world and 2nd most populous in the Americas and Western Hemisphere. Despite the population density and the size of the nation, there are places like central and west Brazilian regions where the population is very sparse. Although history shows that the sparseness of these regions started since the colonial era, when Portuguese colonization focused heavily on the coastal regions, especially in the northeast for sugar production and the southeast for mining and agriculture. The regions of central and western Brazil are largely neglected. Central Brazil, which is often referred to as the Central West region, região centro-oeste of the country, comprises the states of Goiás, Mato Grosso do Sul, and the Federal District, where the capital city, Brasilia, is located. As of 2023, the estimated population of this region is around 16.5 million people, making it one of the least densely populated regions in Brazil. Despite its large geographical size, on the other hand, western Brazil has a population of around 10 million people, much like central Brazil, characterized by vast expanses of forests, savannas, and agricultural lands. The population density in these areas is generally low, with much of the land used for farming, cattle ranching, and in the north, areas of the Amazon rainforests that are less accessible and inhabited. Aside from the colonial era of Brazil, there are several factors that also contributed to the sparseness of central and western Brazil, one of which is the unfavorable climate and heavy rainfall in these areas. Although improvements have been made on the technological advancement to some part of central and western Brazil in order to help in agricultural production. An example of some of those regions is the Cerrado region. This region is characterized by a tropical savanna climate that has distinct wet and dry seasons. The Cerrado experiences a prolonged dry season lasting several months. During this period, rainfall is scarce, making water sources unreliable and limiting the potential for agriculture and settlement. Before modern irrigation techniques, this lack of water made farming difficult and discouraged settlers from relying on subsistence agriculture. Sometimes the dry season also brings frequent wildfires. Although they are a natural part of the Cerrado ecosystem, These fires pose a threat to human settlements, agriculture, and infrastructure. Early settlers would struggle to protect crops and homes from these fires, further deterring permanent habitation. Even during the rainy season, the distribution of rainfall can be irregular, making it difficult to plan for consistent agricultural production. This unreliability discouraged settlers from investing in large-scale farming in the region. Another vital factor we should consider that causes the uneven, sparse distribution of people is the hot and humid climate in western Brazil, particularly the Amazon basin. It has a tropical rainforest climate that is hot, humid, and experiences heavy rainfall year-round. The constant high humidity and heat make the region uncomfortable for large-scale human settlement. The oppressive climate, with the average temperatures around 25 to 30 degrees Celsius, combined with near-daily rainfall, creates an environment where diseases such as malaria and other tropical illnesses can thrive. During the rainy season, the Amazon region receives significant rainfall, often exceeding 2,000 millimeters annually. This heavy rainfall can cause rivers to flood, creating waterlogged environments that are difficult to cultivate or build on. Roads and infrastructure are challenging to maintain due to the constant exposure to moisture. This discouraged early settlers from establishing permanent communities in the region. Lack of accessibility due to dense forests in the central and western region of Brazil also contributed to the reason why so few Brazilians live here. This region lacks important infrastructures such as roads, railways, and ports. Without these reliable transportation networks, it is difficult for people to move into the region. And those who did settle faced challenges in transporting goods and accessing basic services. The Brazilian government only began building significant infrastructure in the Amazon in the mid-20th century, with projects like the Trans-Amazonian Highway. However, even this effort faced enormous challenges due to the forest's density and the climate, and much of the highway remains unpaved and underused. The road was originally planned to create a massive symbolic cross, signifying the transformation of the world's last vast virgin forest. Optimistic projections foresaw that by the early 1980s, the area would thrive with 10 million settlers along the Trans-Amazon Highway. Official plans anticipated these families would produce millions of tons of beans, rice, and maize for domestic markets, while exporting coffee, cocoa, pepper, oranges, and other crops to generate significant income. In reality, none of these materialized. At most, only 20,000 families settled near the road, many doing so independently of the government's colonization program. Instead of the prosperous farming communities envisioned, these settlers are scraping by at subsistence level. Living in traditional wattle and daub huts with palm leaf roofs, they farm with minimal equipment, using old-age methods in cultivating rice, cassava, and maize, mostly for their own needs. They were even isolated in the dense tropical forest, thousands of kilometers from major markets. Even when they managed to produce small surpluses, they struggled to sell them. Amidst all these problems, some major steps can be taken in order to tackle the environmental, infrastructural, and societal challenges that have historically limited settlement in central and west Brazil. On an unfavorable climate, advanced agricultural techniques can be introduced, like the use of modern farming practices, such as soil correction, liming, and irrigation systems, expanding research into drought-resistant crops, and improving water management in order to boost agricultural potential in areas with long dry seasons. While in flood-prone areas like the Pantanal, building resilient infrastructure, elevated homes, flood defenses, etc., and developing zoning laws to manage where and how settlements can grow could help overcome the challenges of seasonal flooding. Investments in infrastructure such as all-weather roads, bridges, and railways that are resistant to flooding and environmental wear can improve access to these regions. Additionally, expanding air and river transport networks in the Amazon region, where roads are limited, can help overcome geographical isolation. To encourage more Brazilians to live in central and western Brazil, there needs to be a combination of modern infrastructure development, technological advancements, economic incentives, and sustainable environmental practices. By addressing the historical barriers of climate, geography, and accessibility, the region could support greater population growth while protecting its rich ecosystems. Government policies and private investments that focus on sustainable growth, modern infrastructure, and quality of life improvements will be key to overcoming the challenges that have limited settlement in these regions. If Brazil can overcome the unique challenges of the central and western regions, a new chapter could unfold, bringing growth and opportunity to these vast, underpopulated lands. Could this be the future of Brazil? Only time and action will tell. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on fascinating insights like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.